everyone, Katy Perry has been in the news everywhere, and I have held back on telling this story for a year and a half. A lot of people have been wanting me to talk about it. I was on American Idol a year and a half ago, and my experience with Katy Perry deeply traumatized me. So a little bit of background on the American Idol competition. I think I went through 3 rounds, and honestly I haven't felt comfortable enough to talk about this until now, because now I'm seeing all this stuff about her and the nuns. I'm seeing her on my For You page on YouTube getting roasted every day, and that has been my favorite pastime. Every hate video I see of Katy Perry, I click on it. It's like one of the things that makes me happy. Reaper. He's licking his little asshole right now. Can you see him? There he is. Anyways, I was 22. I had just moved to Atlanta. I'd come over from Texas. I had red hair at the time. And this was probably my 3rd year in a row auditioning for American Idol. And I talked about how I was a dancer. I think I used ChatGPT way back at that time too, when nobody was that crazy about it. I used it for my American Idol audition, and it said I was working at a ballet school too, and it said something about how I worked at a ballet school during the day, and then I was under a different spotlight at night as an exotic dancer. And then there was a whole thing of me singing. So I really think it was my backstory that drew them in initially. And I was a little bit worried about that, because I feel like sometimes American Idol can be more family friendly. And I ended up going to Nashville to be a part of that. And Nashville, it's all country. It's more family friendly. Atlanta is just different. Yeah, so I had red hair. I sent in... Reaper, stop licking yourself. It is not a good look for us. Thank you. So, come back. There we go. So I sent in a video. I had done a beautiful performance with a band. I'll include a clip too. And I sent that in, and it was gorgeous. And they got back to me because of that, and then the ChatGPT. And then it was 2 weeks later, they got back to me, and they have 5 cities that they have their normal tryouts in, and Nashville just happened to be the last one. They asked me, I had oh my God, everything happened so quick. And so they got back to me. The lady, she asked me for additional videos so they could hear my voice, and I did send in Chandelier, and then I sent in one other video, and I sent those covers in. Then from there I had to interview with these other people. So that was 1 round I went past. I mean, you could argue the videos was the 2nd round. Then the 3rd round, I had to talk to these people. Apparently I was supposed to sing, but nobody told me. I thought it was an interview. So then I went on the Zoom call and I was like, yeah, I didn't know I was supposed to sing. I am not prepared. And they pushed me forward anyways. Oh fuck, I forgot that happened. I was literally I was in my room. I was living in a 4x4 at that time. The walls were so thin, and I was just praying that my roommates next to me wouldn't hear me, because they were some real haters. Oh God, I forgot that happened. So then after that, then I had to meet with all of the executive producers. So we can argue that that's 4 rounds before I even got on TV. I had to go through a whole bunch of steps. So then I meet with all the executive producers, and this is over a Zoom call. One person was in a plane too while I was there, and I went to, because I worked at Atlanta Ballet at the time, so I had access to these big beautiful studios. So I got to work early, probably 2 hours early, and I had a key to everything too. I loved working there. I utilized the space so much, but I practiced And everybody in the office like knew I was going to do this. It was a really cool moment. I genuinely thought my life was about to change. We're getting there. I'm so happy everybody's hating on Katy Perry, because it's like not just about her, it was like the whole American Idol process. Like, you feel so small when stuff like this happens, and you feel like you cannot speak out when you experience like so much exploitation, because it's like, damn, like this whole machine is bigger than me, this person is bigger than me. Like, if you've studied the whole case of her trying to take Katy Taylor, I think that was her last name. There was another woman named Katy Taylor in Australia, and then Katy Perry like was trying to take her trademark, and it was a battle for 18 years, and eventually like the Australian woman lost, and Katy Perry made her pay her to cover Katy Perry's legal fees. It was a whole thing. Like, her brand name, the Australian woman, she spelled Katy with an I-E, and then Katy Perry spelled hers with a Y. Like, it was a whole thing. Katy Perry also led to a nun's death too, and that's come out. And it was like the nun died in the courtroom because Katy Perry was trying to buy their convent so she could live in it. But I sung, everyone loved it, and they told me I was going to the next round. So then they wanted an interview with me, and this woman called me, and I was on the phone with her for like an hour or two. And I have two older sisters. They both have autism. We were all raised in a very chaotic and abusive household, and I was very transparent about that on the call. And my main motivation has always been to be able to take care of my sisters long term. So yes, I love singing, but I would have never gone with singing this far if I did not have the motivation for needing to be wealthy to provide for my sisters. And I was transparent about all of that on that call. And it would be used against me later. And that lady was nice. Like, the people working for it were nice up until that point. So then I had a 3-day notice to get my ass over into Nashville. So I had to like get out of work. I had to find people to cover me last minute, and then I was in Nashville for 3 days. And I think it was like a 6-hour drive. I like left early as fuck in the morning. And they got me a hotel room. Like, the hotel room was nice, and I remember calling my friend, my best friend, and she's over in Austin, Texas right now. And she had lived, that was my roommate. Like, when I was stuck in Austin, Texas for a year, working at a music school, like, having a horrible existence in life, like, that was my best friend. She saw me go through so much. And I was calling her from, like, this beautiful room looking over Nashville. And I was like, wow, this is going to be the rest of my life. Like, I can't believe this happened this quick. I really couldn't. I was like, wow, I moved to Atlanta, now my whole life's changed. It felt like every sacrifice I had made up until that moment was worth it. And the next 3 days were going to be hell. Like, there were 4 different check marks we had to do. It was like, you had to rehearse with the pianist. You had to do an interview too, and that interview was very powerful that I did. And the guy who was interviewing me, I remember he said to me that, like, he could feel everything that I was saying, and he told me, he was like, you're gonna be famous with or without American Idol, aren't you? Like, I feel the love that you have for your sisters. And I cried in that interview. It was embarrassing. I mean, it's just really the exploitation that sucks. Like, you go into an experience like that and you think your whole life's changed. You think, like, one of these people that's around you, even if the American Idol thing doesn't work, you think, like, someone else is going to discover you. You don't think that you bleeding out for everybody to see, you singing, you performing, you being, like, that entertainer that everybody fucking wants. Like, and I was by myself. Like, no one came with me. They said I could have invited someone, but honestly, like, my closest friend, and to this day, is still my best friend. And she's still in Austin. She was in Austin. She's about to go to med school in Dallas. I'm so proud of her. Like, I am so proud to call that woman my best friend. And I'm really sad because she's going to have less time for me. But she's got to do what she's got to do. But yeah, no one came with me. So I was by myself. And it was really hard to be around so many cameras and so many people. And then, like, I think there was another social media bit too where we had to take pictures. Like, they basically gave us a list where we did like a bunch of checklists, and I was staying in one hotel, and then there was another hotel in Nashville, and it was a Dolly Parton inspired hotel. I can't remember what the name of the hotel was, but we were all basically holed up in there, and then we were going from different rooms. The interview was the hardest part. I remember it was so annoying. There was this guy, I can't remember his name. It's probably for the best. He was very overweight, and he was from Michigan, and we made friends, like, instantly. Like, he and I just fucking clicked. Like, he was hilarious, and he had dressed in a way that wasn't himself. Like, he was wearing cowboy boots and jeans because he knew that, or at least that's what his manager's going to come into play later in the story. That man traumatized the shit out of me, too. I ran 2 miles to get away from his manager, and fuck. I'm gonna come back. This is just a hard story to tell. Okay, I'm back. I haven't even told that part of the story yet. I just mentioned it. So this fat guy, I can't remember his name. It's probably for the best. I don't need people suing me. We'll just call him Frank. So Frank, he was in the interview room before me too, and I heard him just talk about how he was trying his best to lose so much weight, and he just was like so fake and so enthusiastic, but the fakeness was to a degree to where it was like, is this really who he is? Like, I couldn't tell. And he ended up getting on the show, and I didn't. So it really made me question, after that whole experience, if I had just like been not myself, would I have gone further? But I believe everyone's time will come. Not everyone, but I think if you're a good person and you work hard, eventually your time will come, and I guess this just wasn't the opportunity for me. And I made a best friend there. Her name was Jessie. It's either Jess or Jessie. She was amazing, though. That was such a sweet girl. Like, she was so herself. It was a breath of fresh air. And Jessie and I would hang out for the next few days. I think I was there for 3 days, and they were running severely behind. All of the judges kept coming in late, and that was very annoying because all of us had like been holed up in this one room in the hotel lobby, and we were just, supposed to sit there and not go anywhere. So we were just waiting on these people that like couldn't really give a fuck about our time or how much we had traveled to get there. And I was practicing outside. I was practicing in stairwells around the hotel. I got yelled at because I was practicing in a stairwell. Like, my performance was perfect. Fucking flawless. My friend Frank, I would meet his manager, and his manager took an interest in me. I remember too, he like went out and got me food, and I was so touched by that because he got the order right, and I felt like he cared for me at the time. And I remember Frank telling me that his manager had discovered him at a bar, and then they had this agreement where the manager was paying Frank $4,000 a month just to do music. And the manager, he would show me pictures of his kids. I think he had 2 daughters. He either had a daughter and a son, or like, and to be quite honest, this man had an unfortunate face, and I just remember his daughter having the same face. And then he had a wife too. That's probably a rude comment. They had the same face though. I hate his face. It's a shame that it was repeated in somebody else. And I thought he was going to make it too. I think I either did a reading or I just had this feeling that he was going to make it eventually. And after American Idol was over, I like DM'd him and told him everything that his manager did. Frank ended up going right before me, so it was a long process. Like, I think it was probably maybe 8 p.m. before I got to go on, and we were there like early, like 9 a.m. early. And I was already upset. They made me do another interview, and it was supposed to be spaced out, but because their time management was awful, everybody was telling me where to go, but it was like I wasn't human anymore. And I was by myself. Like, I was watching my friend Frank. He came with 20 family members, and that's also probably why he got on the show, because when they said yes, they all ran in the room. So it was good TV. They put my interview right before me performing, when I was supposed to have the interview like the day before. And I think they asked me a question about my sisters. I can't remember, but basically I lost it in the interview, and then I ran out crying, and then I ran to a staircase and like cried some more. And then I came back, and like people were concerned, and there was this one lady, and she kept asking me like, do you just want to like push your audition to the next day? And I was like, no, like I've come all this way. I have to go back to Atlanta to work tomorrow. Like, I'm not just gonna take another day. And I guess in retrospect I should have, but then I wouldn't have had the experience I did, so who knows. And I went to the set, and There were a lot of people back there. Ryan Seacrest was actually really nice. I wasn't expecting that. They had a bunch of camera people, and immediately as soon as I went to the backstage area, like, I was treated so differently. Like, up until that point, everyone had been very nice and respectful, and then once I got to that backstage part, like, they had put a wire up my dress, but I came by myself, so I had no one protecting me. I had no, like, I just didn't look like somebody who should be respected. And I had, like, a beautiful long black dress on. Like, if you think of the Marilyn Monroe dress, but black, and then my hair was red, like, I looked beautiful. And I was wearing these little ballet flats, too. But yeah, they were awful to me. And then they told me that I needed to, like, go stretch and warm up in the corners. So I just remember being pissed at everyone because they were, like, being so nasty. And then I went to the corner, and there's these people with these big ass cameras, and I just started doing ballet, and then I was doing, like, my drop splits. They probably thought I was crazy, but I didn't care. Like, this is what the fuck you asked me for. I'll give you that and more. And then the doors open, and after he had, like, my friend Frank, he would tell me later that he had tried so hard to stay and watch my audition, but they wouldn't let him. And I think, to be honest, I feel like they had already made up in their minds that I wasn't going to go through. I think that's why they weren't letting him stay. And I'm pretty sure they already picked that out beforehand. So then I go into the room, and Ryan Seacrest, he was really nice. And then I, like, stand on the spot that I'm supposed to, and I'm looking there, and Katy, she's, like, wearing all white. And she looked beautiful and fake, but beautiful. And I was just shocked to finally be in that room. It's a lot bigger than they make it look on TV. And she was asking me a bunch of questions, but I had mentioned that I worked at Hooters, too, at the time. I worked at Hooters, a ballet school, and that I danced. And I remember, like, being so excited to tell them that. And then everything was fine. I remember Katy Perry, like, making... when I first came in, she said something about how I was red hot, and she was very excited when she saw me. And then I had told them about my jobs, and it just felt like they were in on some kind of joke that I wasn't in on. And Katy Perry, I think they whispered something in her ear. I think they had, like, the little ear things, because then she just, like, turned around all of a sudden and was all animated, and then she asked me if I would dance to Dark Horse. I don't know if she meant, like, to strip right then and there, or if this was, like, a theoretical question. It was such a strange question. And when she said that, I laughed, because at the time I was dancing at King of Diamonds down south in Atlanta. They don't play pop. That song would never be played there, even if you paid for it to be played. And I laughed at her, and then I saw her face after I laughed, and I was like, it's hip hop. And down in Atlanta, they don't play pop. And she took such offense to that, and then it just, like, went all downhill. And then, who was it, Blake Shelton, whoever the country guy was, he was mean as fuck. Like, him and Katy Perry really teamed up on me. Lionel Richie, he was nice, I guess. After I sang, Katy Perry, like, told me I had all of these, like, different voices, and, like, she couldn't tell what was my voice. And then they asked me how old I was, and I was like, I'm 22. And then they were trying to tell me I still had time for my voice to mature. And that didn't make sense to me, because I saw them give a golden ticket to a 14-year-old the day before. So I think they were just saying whatever they could to not have me there. I think Katy Perry asked me if there was anything else I wanted to say before I started singing. And the way she said it, and then the way that they were asking me such leading questions, I knew for a fact they wanted me to talk about my sisters on national TV. Hey y'all, it's me editing in the Pep Boys bathroom. I just want to be clear that I did end up talking about my sisters, but I waited until the very end. I didn't want to do it before I sung, because I didn't want to make it as part of my performance, but I did get desperate at the end, because they were trying to tell me I had a bunch of time, and I was like, actually, I don't have time. And that's when I spoke about them. So before I start crying, let me just have my story straight. And two, I did have a video of me talking afterwards. I'm not going to include it. It's too much to edit. We're just gonna stick with what we got. Like, my sisters have been through enough. It is one thing for me to talk about it in an interview. It's one thing for me to talk about it right here, but to like go in front of 3 people and then me use my sisters the same way everybody else in my life has to like push my career forward, like, that's just so fucked up. Why would I do that? Why would I exploit them off of like me already being exploited? Why the fuck would I do that to them? I did get one guess. It was from Lionel Richie. I'm gonna include the original video because it's really hard for me to remember everything that they said, because anytime something bad happens, like, I just do my best to block it out. And I remember waiting for like months too after to see if it was going to be aired, and they never aired it. And I wish they would have like at least told me they weren't gonna air it, because they like, that night I was very upset. The lady too who told me that I could have waited till the next day, like, she saw me crying afterwards and everything, and she was worried, and I don't remember how I did it, but I left, and I think she asked me like if I was gonna be okay, and I said that I was, and I wasn't. I ran back up to my hotel room. I got my sneakers, and I was so like distraught over everything. I ran into downtown Nashville, which was about 2 miles away. It was either a mile or 2 miles away. I can't remember. All I know is I ran 2 miles in total. It might have only been a mile away. I ran into downtown Nashville, and I sat on this bridge because I just couldn't believe it. Like, I felt like I had blown my chance to make something of myself. I felt like I was never going to have another opportunity like this again, and I was so confused as to why I had been treated like that. And I remember being on this bridge and just sitting on the bridge, and I had called my best friend and I had told her everything. And then she was just making fun of Katy Perry the whole time, so I appreciated that. And then there was this homeless man, and he was trying to give me his sandwich. And that was sweet. And then I was worried he was gonna, like, kill me. So I left, and then I went into, like, the downtown area where all the bars are. And that manager, he had been texting me, and Frank, he told me that we were all going to meet later that night, and Frank was out with his family, and he said that, like, we were all gonna have dinner together. So then I was texting his manager, assuming they were gonna tell me where to meet them in downtown Nashville. And it took a while. I was waiting, I think, until maybe 11 o'clock. And then the manager, like, he finally told me where he was, and it was this whole thing where he, like, I think I sent my location and then he couldn't find me. It was a whole thing, and I thought Frank was gonna be there. And I go in front of this bar, and then the manager comes to get me. And then the manager, he, like, at this point, I had been looking to him as, like, a father figure. Someone who, like, knew more than I did. I didn't look at him as anything more than that. And the manager, he grabbed my hand and, like, led me back up to the bar. And we went up, like, 3 flights of stairs up into this rooftop. And as soon as he grabbed my hand, I knew. And to be honest, like, I was so weak and broken at that point. I didn't feel like strong enough to call him out for anything, strong enough to leave. So then I was on the top of this rooftop bar with him, and I told him what had happened, and he was just listening, just waiting to take advantage of me. And he wanted to hear my music. So in the back of my mind, I was kind of like, well, maybe he would do the same thing he did for his artist for me. Like, maybe he would manage me if he's got all this money. So I wasn't, like, completely connecting the dots of, like, him wanting more from me. I thought the hand-holding thing was weird, and that, but I kind of knew too. And I played my music, and he barely listened to it. And then he asked me at one point, he was like, oh, people are motivated by different things. He was trying to get me to go to his hotel, and he was trying to say that they had, like, a better rooftop bar, and I was like, well, I don't drink, because I don't drink, so for what reason would I even be going there? And he just, like, again, was talking about, and he brought up his family, too, at some point there, and then he was talking about people were motivated by different things, and he knew about that I danced, and he used it against me. And I remember, like, telling him I didn't want anything. I didn't want to go back to his hotel. And then he pulled out his wallet. And he, like, opened his wallet. And he was like, well, some people are motivated by money. This man was inferring that he was going to pay me to go to his hotel room. He didn't explicitly say the words, but, like, you lured me to a bar. You kept trying to get me to go back to your hotel, which would have meant you would have somehow gotten me into your hotel room by saying we were on the wrong floor or some shit, or you left something in your room, like, and to say some people are motivated by money, you're gonna open your wallet to try and lure me back into your room, or at least, like, try to make some transaction. And I feel like I cried at some point. I was so weak. I just couldn't believe that had happened, and that after everything he knew had happened. And then it's like, wow, now I'm in downtown Nashville. I ran all the way here. Now I have to run all the way back. And then he was saying he would get an Uber for me back to hotel, but he didn't know what hotel I was staying at. Like, I was just staying at one down the street from the hotel where we had been at. So I didn't want him to Uber me. I was afraid he was going to send the Uber to his hotel, or that he was going to have the address of where I was going to be at. So I think I walked with him for 1 block, and I waited for him to, like, turn the corner. And as soon as he turned the corner, I ran, like, sprinted. I had to, like, stop and walk at different points, but I sprinted all the way back to my hotel. I felt bad too for my friend Jessie. She's like a very out there person. She's like a hippie person. And she's a very pretty girl, but she didn't wear makeup. Like, she wore boys' clothes. She's basically a hippie. And she didn't wear shoes either in her audition, and they were really mean to her about that. And she was so talented, too. And I was talking to her for a few weeks after the audition, and she just fell into, like, a really deep depression. And she went on, like, a road trip across the U.S. a couple of times. It, like, fucked her up mentally. Fucked all of us up mentally. But I feel really bad for what it did to her. Like, I don't know what else to tell y'all. There was a girl, too, on the show. She had been there, like, a few years prior, and she told us that her experience on the show a couple years prior, she had a little dog, and the dog had, like, taken a shit off of the set, and they refilmed the whole thing, so it made it look like the dog shit on the set. Like, everything you see there is not real. And yeah, I kept waiting for months to see if my thing would air. I told so many people I did it, and I had hoped that, at least with the Dark Horse comment, because I knew, like, that was gonna make good TV. I knew everything I had said was fine, even though they were using everything I had said against me. Like, I knew it was going to make good TV, and I knew I would have gone viral off of it. So then I was waiting for weeks after, months after, and I emailed them, and they wouldn't give me a straight answer. But yeah, they never aired me. It was embarrassing. I had a bunch of people waiting to see if I had done that, and honestly, like, if I had made it onto the show, I feel like that clout a little bit would have helps me not be in other exploitative situations, because that clout would have given me credibility. And when you don't have credibility, people just see raw talent and they just think that they can use and abuse it over and over again. Yeah. And then I went through a deeply traumatic event in March. So it was like 4 months after American Idol, and then I stopped singing for a year after that point. So, you know, it was only 15 minutes to Katy Perry, but it was like a whole lifetime of work for me. And that moment of just cruelty sent me into so many bad situations. Like, I could have literally gotten raped again that night. Like, yeah, I feel safe enough to talk about my experience of American Idol now that I see that Katy Perry's finally getting exposed. I might as well expose a few other organizations along with it. Thank you for listening.